Studio Underdog is more significant than you think. Yeah, sure, they have the watermelon watch and now they've come up with the pumpkin watch, but there's something bigger going on there, at least based on how this brand will affect the watch industry moving forward. So grab your coffee and let's jump right into it. Welcome back to Watches with Abdullah, and today I want to talk about Studio Underdog. A lot of watch channels, including myself, we do a lot of hands-on watch reviews, but there's also a side that involves analysis of the industry. And if you're an enthusiast like me, you kind of start to pick up on this, even if you're not an expert, on how things have been for the last few decades and how they're starting to change. And that's why I thought that Studio Underdog is such a great example or such a great case study in terms of understanding how the trends are changing, understanding on how people's tastes are evolving, and most importantly, understanding how watch brands are changing their approach to watchmaking and watch design. For many years, we have seen watch brands take their watches extremely seriously. They kind of have to because it's a business. They're selling a serious product. Entry brands need to compete with mid-range brands, and mid-range brands need to compete with high-end brands. So there's a lot of competition going on between the brands, and all of them are competing against Apple. So no brand wants to create a perception that it's just having fun, it's not taking itself seriously. No, they want people to invest in these things because they're so serious and necessary and all of that BS. But as more and more watch collectors and enthusiasts are speaking about taking this passion, this hobby, way too seriously, I feel like this is the perfect time to talk about Studio Underdog. We are seeing fun, quirky watch collaborations like Tag Heuer with Super Mario, but those collaborations are oftentimes with another brand. So there's always that two-way benefit that's involved in this type of collaboration. But it seems like Richard from Studio Underdog discovered that we're not really collaborating with everyday objects, everyday stuff like a watermelon or some fruits or ice cream, things that people like, things that people enjoy, that brings you happiness regardless of your financial status. So he came up with this idea of creating a very well-known silhouette, something that's very well recognizable, something that you see in vintage watch designs, in reissues of vintage inspired chronographs. So when you look at this watch, it's not like a crazy HYT or work or something polarizing of that sort. Polarising, I don't know what that means. I just hear Teddy Balsar using it all the time, and it just feels right in this context, or at least it sounds right. Polarizing, wholly or partially to one direction. Okay, so it's kind of like, it's very one-sided. It's yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, it's a well-known silhouette. It's not something groundbreaking. But then the creative side, the genius side of this watch is not in its silhouette, but on its theme. And that's also another reason why this watch is so wearable. Richard just found an everyday object that people like and just smacked it on this well-known format. But he didn't take this too seriously. He loves watches and he just wanted to create something that doesn't exist already. He's not trying to compete with anybody. He wants to create his own thing. He mentioned in one of his interviews with Watchfinder that he was expecting his lesser polarizing designs, the black and white panda in particular, to be more popular, and the watermelon to be something that's a bit limited and just a few collectors, crazy collectors, are gonna go for that. The watermelon is the one that's performing the best. That's the one that people are reaching out for. And he also mentioned that once he restocked the watches, within 6 minutes, the watches were out of stock. Just imagine how insane that is. If you look at the $500 price point, this guy's not making a lot of money with these watches. He's not like, you see the value there. The watches are assembled in Britain, so this is not like a Chinese made watch. Yes, they are using a seagull movement, but everything else, they're trying to add value as much as possible while keeping the price point at an entry level, at something attainable. That speaks volume to the people behind this brand, Richard in particular. Anyway, let me pull out the spec sheet for this watch. Case diameter of 38.5 millimeters with a total thickness of 13.6 millimeters. So it's not crazy thick, it's not large, it's actually quite wearable. A lug to lug of 44.5 millimeters. I love that. I absolutely love that. It is going to wear perfectly for most wrists. If you have a small wrist, this is perfect. But if you have a larger wrist, I think it's still not going to wear small because those colors are just so in your face. You know, they stand out so much. 3-part case construction, 316L stainless steel, domed sapphire crystal, C3 superluminova, 50 meters of water resistance, which is great, a seagull manual wind movement, the ST1901, and a 20 millimeters handmade leather strap. 500 pounds. Insane value. So what I was saying about how this watch brand is more significant than we think, that's based on the fact that Richard mentioned in his interviews about the statistics of his watch sales, where he mentioned that the watermelon watch sold much better than his more traditional designs, the more safer designs. I think that's a very interesting stat and as a case study for other brands to look at. Yeah, you might have 10 series watches, but then you still want that fun, quirky watch, or even if it's just this one watch that you have. How cool is it to have that watermelon on your wrist when everybody else is wearing a Seiko and a Tissot and a Hamilton and those well-known brands, but you have something very unique. I think this brand is the future of the watch industry, not just at entry level, but also at higher end. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? I think Richard is doing a fantastic job, not just in terms of creating fresh design and bringing fresh ideas into the watch world, but also in terms of how he is uplifting the British watch industry. Let me know what you guys think. Would you ever consider buying this kind of watch? What other improvements would you like to see, at least in their future models? If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell. It really helps. Don't take this hobby too seriously, but just have fun. And I'll see you guys in the next one.